Thank you, Joe, and members of the Tweed Coolangatta sub-branch. It was fantastic this morning to see all those young school children marching. So we just put our hands together for those young kids. Joe Russell and myself served together in Vietnam. We both served in the Delta Company of the 4th Battalion Royal Australian Regiment. We were the last company and the last battalion to see service in Vietnam and the last to see conflict. Joe, being a regular soldier, he was a rifleman. I was a national serviceman. I carried a machine gun. There was no difference between Joe and I. Well, that's what he says anyway. You may have noticed this morning that the parade was led by the Army. Those marching directly behind the banner and carrying the banner are the younger veterans of today. When Joe and I come back from Vietnam in 1971-72, Australia's seen 20 years of peace. But within that 20 years, we had a lot of servicemen and women who'd done their duty for Australia. They were prepared to go to combat if needed. There was a time when there was problems in Fiji. We had men lined up on the airstrip ready to go, and that led the hand, yet it was cancelled, which was a good result. Since then, since the Vietnam War, our servicemen and women have served in countries like Somalia, Rwanda, Cambodia, Afghanistan, Iraq, Solomon Islands, Bougainville, New Guinea, East Timor, Timor-Leste. They also served in the United Nations in their peacekeeping and peacemaking operations. They've also served in humanitarian missions. My son, in fact, in 2004, up at Springbrook Mountain having Christmas with me, got a phone call and he had to go to Bema Aceh when the tsunami hit. So Australian men and women since Vietnam have not just fought in wars, they have served as peacekeepers, humanitarians. We should be very proud of those people. And this morning they led our parade. I think that was one of the greatest tributes that this sub-branch could hand to those young men. There's also women as well, but we only have the men marching this morning. So thank you. We should also remember the supreme sacrifice that these people have done. We have lost people in training exercises, we have lost them in peacekeeping exercises, and we have lost them in war zones. We also like to have a quiet reflection on those wonderful, lucky nation we live in. The time to reflect on Australia's commitment and continue to contribute to peace in other parts of the world. We can't isolate ourselves and ignore our responsibilities. In a perfect world, there would be no wars. And unfortunately, we're not in a perfect world. We must prepare to deploy our forces to fight to protect the rights of Australia and our neighbours and our friends. As the ranks of our older veterans continue to diminish, let us determine to maintain this special day and reflect on our freedom, to recognise the fertility of war, but acknowledge that we must be prepared to defend our freedom and our neighbours' freedoms. I would like to finish today with an excerpt from a book from John Hepworth titled The Long Green, about diggers in Papua New Guinea. It was said, they pinned no medals on him, they made no speeches. We need no medals, and we don't need speeches. We know him and remember him. He was just a good, ordinary bloke. That's the point. That's the important thing. He was just an ordinary bloke like the rest of us here today. Let us remember the young who sacrificed the pleasures of growing old with their families, children and friends so that we can enjoy our freedoms and enjoy the pleasures of listening to birds, to listen to the voices of our families and the people we love. We pause today to acknowledge the current and former members of our Defence Forces, the brave men and women who represent our country on a daily basis. Australia is left untouched when a member of the Defence Forces is killed in action. It is difficult to comprehend the grief associated with the loss of a partner, a parent, a child or a sibling. Let us also ensure that we remember those families. In Afghanistan alone, as a nation, we have felt the loss of 39 soldiers, and as I wrote this speech the other day, it was 251 wounded. We have now had another one wounded, so it's 252. We have seen the personnel serve and overseas carrying on the spirit of ANZAC. We must not forget today's veterans, the young, the women, and who are returning from duties in Afghanistan, Iraq, Solomon Islands and Timor-Leste. ANZAC Day is a day to remember all men and women of Australia, Defence Force, regardless of times they served. We pay tribute to the current and former members of the Defence Force who were lost in training, on operations, wounded, injured or ill. Thank you very much. Thank you.